Welcome to yet another video. In this video, we're gonna be making coffee on a French press.
Hey, but that's not a French press.
I know, but bear with me and let me explain. There are multiple ways in which one can make coffee. You could use a Moka Pot, which is the one that we've been using so far on this channel. You can also use a French press, which will be our new member to the team. There are other ways to make coffee. You have espresso machines and pour overs. Every one of the four ways in which you can make coffee can be situated on a line. On your left hand side, you have your espresso machines, which have high temperatures, high pressures, a lot of control, and they are really complex machines. On the right hand side, you have your pour overs, your V60s. There's really not that much to them. You just make hot water and pour it over the coffee. On the middle, you have the Moka Pot and the French press. The Moka Pot achieves higher temperatures and it has some pressure, so it's like a really reduced, simplified, turned down way of making espresso, if you want to say it like that. It's really a completely different process, but it's closer to the espresso than to the pour over. And then probably the hardest one to put into the line, the French press. The French press is really not a pouring method. So the water doesn't start at the top of your coffee pot and starts brewing as it goes down. It's more like an infusion, like if you were making a tea but with coffee. On the French press, as well as like on this device, you will put your coffee on here with the water and it will all be mixed together in the same space. Then, on the first press, by pressing the coffee to the bottom of the press, in this case by extracting the coffee, which will be in here, and letting the water flow down, your infusion will stop and you will get your beverage. Let's now prepare not only a coffee with a French press, but also a coffee with a Moka Pot, to be able to see the difference between both.
We are gonna start by measuring 15 grams of coffee. Then we are gonna configure our grinder by setting the grind size to almost 20. We are almost in the espresso range, just a little bit coarser. Finally, we are gonna measure another 15 grams of coffee, put them on the grinder and start grinding. Now that our coffee is grinded, let's prepare a paper so that we can pour some of the coffee out and carefully inspect how it looks, so that later on we can compare it with a coarser grain. Let's take the coffee out of the jar and put it into the tumbler so that we can grind our second batch. This second batch will be for our French press. We will repeat the exact same process. We will start by measuring 15 grams of coffee. This time the settings for our grinder will be different. For a French press coffee, just like for a pour over, we want a coarser grind of coffee. In the French press, this is especially important. We want to have the final 15 grams of coffee will go into the grinder and we can start grinding them. Remember to moisten your coffee beans before grinding them. For this second grind, we are also gonna take some of the coffee out and put it into a sieve. We can now see the difference between both of the grinds. The one on your left is more coarse and has slightly bigger chunks than the one on the right. In both cases we can see that the coffee has been grinded and not pulverized. That often we are gonna pour our second batch of coffee onto our French press. Now that our coffee has been grinded and our coffee machines are ready, we can get to actually brewing. We just have to heat the water in the Moka Pot, as well as heat some water that we will pour into the French press. I wanted to use this portable induction stove on the video to heat the Moka Pot and the water, just so I could record it more conveniently. But apparently that was not quite a good idea. The induction stove doesn't work with the Moka Pot, so I had to use a pan to put under the pot so that I could heat that pan, which was compatible with the induction stove, and then just by contact the Moka Pot would get heated from the pan. But at the end, it all went well. I managed to brew both cups of coffee, so let's get to the tasting.
Here we have our mocha coffee. As you can see, it's clear and really watery, and it has a deep brown in color. On the other hand, we have our French press coffee. This one looks way thicker, especially at the bottom. Like if we scrub at the bottom of the glass, you'll see that it has like a lot of solid, pretty much solid substrate, and that's just the finer grains of coffee that, even though our grinder is pretty good, you can't really avoid getting those finer particles. In here, those finer particles just go through the filter and get infused with the coffee. On the other hand, on the Moka Pot, those particles aren't even leaving the pack of coffee. Usually on a regular French press, the ones that are actually a press, you would avoid getting those finer particles by using a filter around the part that is pressing, an actual paper filter. But I think that takes a bit of the essence of what a French press is. Nonetheless, that's a perfectly valid alternative or other way of just changing and making another variety of coffee, like using a French press but with a filter. Unfortunately, on this type of French press, I'm insisting on calling it a French press just because here you are also making an infusion of coffee instead of just having something that goes through the pack. But the farm format, it's completely different, and of course on this one you cannot use a paper filter. You could maybe try to put one like over here, or maybe have it filtered once at the end, but I don't have paper filters, so I couldn't really try that. That might be one thing that you could do. Like, what would happen if you were to put a cone of paper filter right on top of the glass? Like, at least those finer particles couldn't get through. So that could be another different way of making coffee. Let's now taste our coffees. I'm gonna taste them with a spoon because, well, they are quite hot at the moment and I don't want to burn myself. So this coffee is pretty refined. It's not thick on the mouth. It's slightly sweet, but maybe that's probably because of the variety of coffee that I'm using. On the other hand, let's see this one. I don't want to stir it too much. Like, you are not supposed to eat you're not supposed to drink. You're not eating coffee. You're drinking it. The very bottom of the glass, just because all of the solid substrates have gone there. So this one tastes a bit bitter, a bit more bitter than this one. It's also a bit more acid, so while this one is sweeter, yeah, this one is definitely sweeter than this one. This one is a bit more bitter and also a bit more acid. In general, the mouthfeel is just feels thicker. So if you don't really like that, this type of coffee might not be the one for you, unless you're of course using a paper filter. So yeah. Also, like the temperatures at which they were brewed are completely different. So while this one has been brewed to lower temperature, the temperature on this water has been bigger just because of the hurdles we had with the pan. But yeah, at the end, I'm not a taste expert on coffee. I'm just trying to show you a different way in which you could be making coffee. And if you have a French press lying around, maybe you use your French press for making tea. I at least bought these to make tea, although it was advertised to make coffee initially. But if you have a French press lying around, just try to make coffee with it and see what you think. Hope you've learned something, hope you got on new ideas. See you on the next video. Bye!
Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Click the subscribe button, like and subscribe.